have gone live. Wow, wow, wow. Nothing looks broken. Okay. It's Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we're talking about a delightful little game called Stacklands. So I know we did a review a while ago, Marvel Snap, when it came out, and I remember, Scott, you said something. You were very, very clear that you were going to play the game until you lost. You beat all the bots. You lost one match that was a scripted loss, and you said you were done. You never play it again.
No, I said I would not play it again until they added some friend-on-friend kind of action. And they did, and that is
how many friend-on-friend games have you played compared to playing against randos and bots? I'm just curious.
We organized the whole friend-on-friend tournament.
Yeah, but how many? I'm just curious.
Did a lot better. I eliminated you. We both lost our first matches, and we went to the losers bracket where I eliminated you. You won 0 matches in that tournament.
That is true.
You were completely eliminated with no victory.
Also, partly because back then I had basically no cards.
I went all the way through the losers bracket and lost in the final match of the losers bracket, which I guess is sort of, third or fourth place, because I guess whoever lost in the winners, No, I guess that would be third place, because whoever lost in the winner's bracket last who was in second place, came down to me, beat me, and went back up.
Yeah.
So I was in third place, and you were dead last place.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm just curious, how many games have you played against bots and randos compared to the actual total number of games you played against people you know?
I would love to play. I mean, yes, I have played more games against bots and randos.
Yeah, what one order of magnitude? 2 orders? I think it's at least 2 orders of magnitude based on your collector level, which is significantly higher than mine. You play this game a lot more than I do.
The collector level is so high because of my strategy of every morning play until I complete all quests.
I do not do that. I just kind of play when I feel like it, like when I'm pooping.
Yeah, see, every single morning, complete all 6 quests. Every morning, it takes 10, 15, most days takes 10 minutes. And then there have been a couple of occasions where I have played additionally, but the vast majority of my play was against bots is the 10 minutes every morning to complete all quests. Just because all I want is to get every card. Because what if I get every card, then
you'll never get every card. This game's going to be designed to make sure you never have every card.
We'll see. But I'm going to try to get every card. Our people have every card. So
yeah, but more cards are coming.
Catching up. I'm gaining cards. They are releasing more cards. I'm gaining cards faster than they're releasing them.
Yep. Thing is, the only card I want right now is Dracula.
I got Dracula.
I know. What's funny.
You should do what I do and play every single morning. Do all 6.
No, I ain't doing work. This game's fun. It's not that fun.
It takes 10 minutes a day. I
ain't doing work. That is suspiciously like grinding.
Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe you should eat some more fiber. You'll poop more. And you'll poop enough to do 6 quests a day. I don't even look at the quests unless, I just sort of...
You know what I do? I play until I see, a bunch of quests are done, and then I click on all the ones that are done, and then I look at whatever one's left, and I decide if I'm going to bother or not. Because, if I got to change decks to do it, and I didn't already have a deck...
It's very rare that there'll be a quest that's like, oh, you actually need to play a discard deck to complete this quest, in which case... Or a move deck, move
deck was the one I had trouble with because I have 2 decks. I have a reaction / anti-meta deck that I don't really play often. Really only use it to occasionally finish a quest. And then I got my discard deck that I've been really focused on lately.
Yeah, I just threw together, random move deck of just every card says move on it.
Yeah.
Just a quest completion deck. And then when I get one of those random quests, it'll take me 2 matches.
So I'll tell you something I have done. And I encourage you to do this too, because I think a lot of people can get away with this. I do skim occasionally. I look at if there's a quest that I expect people would make a deck just to do it, like win a location with 1 card versus win a location with 4 cards. The kinds of things people will just crank out. And if I even remotely think that someone has a deck that is basically designed to finish one of those quests that's active, I'll just snap immediately, snap aggressively. I know I'm going to win because that deck's probably crap.
I mean, that I don't see that too often, though. I guess when you're rank 70 something, you don't see
I'm
those.
64 right now.
Alright.
I don't play that much, but it's never.
I mean, they added the new 5 rank boost when you hit a 10.
Yeah.
Right? So
It's real easy to rank up till you hit around like 70, 75, and then the sweaty people are there.
yeah, but they are, I hate ladders, right? We've talked about that before, but they are adding a non-ladder competitive mode that seems much more in line with the sort of tournament competition that I am a fan of. So we'll see what that looks like when it appears.
Yep. What I'm enjoying the most is seeing people people who clearly haven't played, like, they haven't internalized the lessons of every collectible game in the history of collectible games, and they get mad about the changing meta, or they like to play a certain way and then the meta changes and that card doesn't work anymore, and freaking out about nerfs and buffs, and it's always fun to watch people get way too sweaty about that stuff.
That's what a card game is. If you're not here for that, then you're in the wrong place. That's what this is.
Like
right?
what? Do you want the overpowered card that nobody likes that literally everyone is playing because it's so overpowered? Do you want the game to just be that forever? No, of course not. That's why they nerfed it. Because they fucked up when they designed it. And right now, the only card that is fucked up is Lockjaw.
The only things that I complain about are, number one, they write the rules poorly. This is like, it's pretty bad.
I would argue that does not matter at all to the game, and there's probably...
it doesn't matter for most people, but I'm still going to complain.
But I'm not saying that with most people. I'm saying there are probably like 11 people on Earth who care about that, and 9 of them are in our Discord.
I think more people.
The other 2 are listening to this podcast right now.
I think there's a lot of people, but
well, I just want to say the kind of person who goes to Geek Nights panels on purpose or would enjoy them if they got tricked into going to one. Those are the people who would actually.
Right, but I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I complain about, which is something that seems like a lot of people, don't agree with me, but it's like every single card game since that has had the sort of Magic the Gathering system.
Oh, you're still mad about the monocurve? I think technology has moved forward. Monocurve fuckery is fine if handled with care. It just was done poorly and dangerously in previous games.
It's done poorly and dangerously in this game as well.
How so? None of those decks are in the broken meta.
Every single of the top meta decks, always, every single one involves playing cards below cost or getting extra energy from somewhere.
Yeah.
Every top deck in the meta.
Every worker placement game, with like one exception, getting another baby is always a great idea. That's a big part of the meta.
That's exactly correct. But
I think they've got a good balance, though, at least for now, of the handful of mana curve fuckeries that have been broken, they have addressed.
Yeah, they didn't let it get way out of control, but it's still, like, I would love to see. I've never seen. If anyone knows of one, please let me know, right? But it's like Magic the Gathering. The way Magic the Gathering worked, it was the first game like this that I know of. And it was like, you could get a land a turn if you got a land, right?
Yep.
It's like sometimes you ran out of land.
I think putting land in the deck was a mistake, and no one thought about that at the time.
A separate topic.
Yeah.
It was, you increase your currency supply by 1 per turn, and the game scales up. So you start playing small cards, and you later play big cards.
Yep.
That's a really good design overall for a lot of reasons.
Get that basalt monolith on turn 4. You play a 6 or 7 power card.
Okay, but regardless, right? They're the very first cards that were banned in the very first game like this were Black Lotus, Moxes, or restricted. Soul Rings, all these cards that let you get more mana than
but I point out
ahead of the curve.
There are plenty of cards in Modern Magic that do that. The only problem with those cards is, one, their cost of 0 was mega dangerous. Like they were like we're talking about a very narrow band of feasibility on monocurve fuckery. These things were all the way at the left.
Yes, but there is obviously degrees of badness.
There's tons of cards in Magic today that fuck with the mana curve.
If it costs 5 or 7, people probably wouldn't be playing it, right? It's like, obviously. But the point is that if you look at every other card game that has come since with the same sort of curve system, right? The common thread of cards that are banned, restricted, nerfed, OP, etc., is that almost all of them and almost all of the top meta decks in every card game, all different games, right, is that there's a common thread of things that let you reduce cost and things that let you get more energy.
Now, on one hand, I would like to see your data, like what card games have you looked at?
It is, I mean, this is anecdotal.
I know. I'm just saying. Just saying. You got your anecdata come down to Marvel Snap, couple of card games we've heard of, the Magic we both played for 1% of the existence of Magic.
I have never seen, and this is what I want the listener to, if the listener knows of one, I have never seen such a Magic-ish styled game where you get energy per turn, right? Even another good example.
I don't think the SimCity game, the SimCity CCG might, I want to say, I can't think of anything that fucked with the mana curve that I saw in that game.
But even when we played recently that miniatures game, the Moon, what was it called?
Moonbreaker or whatever.
Moonbreaker, the one character that let you decrease the cost on your units and bring them out, was the just OP strongest.
Well, because they made him too powerful. It had to be less of an increase.
Right? But it's like, I would love to see a game with the sort of mana curve, right? Or some sort of currency for playing units or cards where the curve is set. There is no cheating.
I am confident there are tons of games like that, but I also think that it's...
Do you know of one?
I'm confident there's a bunch out there. There's so many of these games out there.
I mean, I totally believe there could be many there because there are so many games and I only know a small fraction of them.
Yep.
Right? But can you name one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't play card games. I barely play Marvel Snap.
Exactly. So if there is such a game, I don't disbelieve that there
Here's
is.
my guess, though. I bet.
Never seen one.
I'll bet
I would love to try one to see what that's like.
I will bet every single game that has no possible mana curve fuckery is also bad.
I didn't say it. I mean, that doesn't make it, that's not like if you fix this, it's not like, oh, you fix this one thing.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying partly because I point out that modern Magic has tons of cards that fuck with the mana curve. They just aren't extreme like the Moxes.
Sure. I'm just saying, I would love to see a card, a game that doesn't let you fuck with it. And I have thought of some game designs where you could still keep it interesting by not just by not letting anyone get more currency, but also not just having a boring curve then, but doing something else with the currency, right? But not letting anyone get more or cut costs, right? Because the really core problem is that when people design these games, they design sort of the cards not entirely in isolation, but they design them thinking about that card and a few other cards, right? You can't take every card into consideration, right?
Well, eventually we will, because the way I think companies will move into this, unless the economy collapses, is exactly that. AIs will just...
Machine learning can help you design a...
You'll just constantly run bots against bots against bots and figure out the top and bottom of the meta and use that to tune.
Yep. That would be great, but that's not here quite yet.
I think it's going to be here within a couple years.
Design cards by hand. What they do is they arrange all the powers and abilities, and most often they set the cost last, right? They're like, okay, a 10-10 in Magic, that's really big. That should cost a lot of mana, right? And the cost is very often only there for balancing. And if you allow someone to cut the cost in any way or get more currency to bring things out in some way, you've just ruined the balance that you put into every card.
Except the card that is played that causes that itself has costs and consequences. Like Electro, I think is perfectly fine. In Snap.
I mean, he's not
I might increase his I might increase his cost by 1. Maybe. I haven't looked at the data on how much in the meta he is right now.
Example,
I'll also point out that when I see Electro, I insta-snap because anyone who's playing Electro always loses to me right now.
Well, anyone who plays Electro is playing Galactus, right?
Yep.
So I always snap because...
Or there our friend Scott Johnson who just loves Electro, like, for some reason.
But Galactus is easy to counter, right? But the point is that that's actually a good example, is that Galactus, he's a 6/2. You play him at an empty location. He destroys the rest of the board. So basically, it allows you to win a game if someone has a really weak location that you haven't even played anything to, right? It's sort of like this trap card.
It's got to be so weak, though.
Right. But it's okay.
It's basically got to be empty.
On its own, it's okay. But Electro, right, combined with Galactus, lets you play Galactus on 5 instead of 6, right? And then that lets people play Null and Death on turn 6 behind the Galactus.
Yep.
Right?
Assuming they got him.
Right. Assuming they got him. But it's like, if you're not it's easy, I guess it's, okay that they designed that particular interaction.
Well, I would argue that actually the problem there,
telegraphed that you can avoid it. But
well, like the Infinite is telegraphed. If someone just doesn't fucking play anything on turn 5, like very likely,
still, right? If there weren't ways to counter, right? It's like that's still kind of messed up, and that the Galactus on its own is now busted because you're letting someone play it early, right? It would have been even better to balance. It's like, if you have a card that can counter the Galactus, or at least if you see it coming, you can retreat at minimum. But it would be even better if you just couldn't pull that bullshit in the first place.
Of course, when someone, if Galactus comes out, which happened to me a few times on turn 5, both times I had Shang-Chi, and and it was fine.
You have to hope you don't have priority.
Yep.
Anyway,
in the news. So, Scott and I played a lot of Counter-Strike back in the day. We played the original pre-release Counter-Strike.
I played Counter-Strike since it was like CS beta something, and then CS and then CS 1.0,
but there was
way up to 1.6.
The P90 was not in the game when we had already been playing for a while. I remember when the P90 was added to the game and then temporarily removed because it was way too powerful, and then they brought it back super nerfed.
Like when we played for the Counter-Strike in the year 2000, there was a Counter-Strike, there was a forum, like a PHPBB forum on counter-strike.net. That was the official forum. And there would be a thread every day saying, ban the AWP. Right?
Yep. I think I have a screenshot of that in one of our old panels.
But anyway, the Counter-Strike went to 1.6. Then they had CS Source.
Yep. And they were all great. It's funny, CS6,
CSGO,
CS1.6, CS Source, CSGO, all three of them are still heavily played today. Like, it is terrifying.
All basically the same damn game.
Yep.
Just looking fancier.
And recently, like a few weeks ago, I booted up Counter-Strike Go. I hadn't played it in a while. I just wanted to see what was going on in there. There's a lot. There's a lot going on in there. There's a lot more matchmaking, a lot more modes, a lot more maps. The game is still pretty great if that's the kind of game you want to play.
There's a lot of skin gambling. That's what I'm saying.
But it is easy to avoid that. You just don't interact with those people.
Maybe you could I get so lucky that I could boot it up once, play a match, somehow earn a skin that's like the rarest cocoa bean and sell it for a pile of money.
So you said
that happened.
We were selling all of our old crap in Steam, and I looked because I wasn't going to click through all my stuff and sell it, but I had a couple of CS items that people were buying for like $7-8.
Whoa!
I sold them all.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I looked at what the current bid ask was, and I set it
cards with those.
Yeah, I set it like a cent under it, so I made like $20 just selling a few items. I didn't sell anything that was worth less than like a few dollars.
Maybe that's why everyone's playing Counter-Strike, because you get paid to play.
So yeah, Counter-Strike is still a pretty good game. If I didn't have a job, I would definitely still be playing Counter-Strike semi-regularly. It is not above the line of do it and play all the other games I play and do Geek Nights and have a job.
Right. So what's the
when I'm 41
news?
Valve has been very slowly announcing that Counter-Strike 2 is coming.
Is this actually true? I've heard the same whispers, but I have not seen an official Valve news.
Yeah, so they registered trademarks for CS2 and Counter-Strike 2. They put a new logo on some of their Valve-owned websites for Counter-Strike.
Okay.
I'm going to link to an article that lists I'm
pretty sure it's happening, but the point is, this is still in rumor territory, right?
It seems pretty valid.
Yeah, but
yep.
There's no official anything. It's just everyone knows hush, hush, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows the next iPhone is coming in September, wink, wink.
So, just a few weeks ago, Counter-Strike Go hit its all-time simultaneous player count. It hit 1.4 million concurrent players in games. So it's still a huge game. And
it's just not Fortnite big or Minecraft big.
No. Because it's, actually, that's kind of what our panel at PAX is about.
Big.
You talk about Fortnite, and that's a more casual, fun game than Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike, in serious competition, is the sweatiest fucking people you will ever interact with online.
I'm curious if Fortnite or Candy Crush has more max simultaneous people.
I bet Candy Crush, just because a lot of people are pooping.
It could be. I don't know.
How many people are pooping simultaneously on Earth? Anyway.
I don't know.
So there is a strong indication, because Counter-Strike Go, despite hitting this record, is shockingly old. Yeah. Counter-Strike 2 appears to be coming, and what I will promise all of you, because having played Counter-Strike Go again recently, I actually really like Counter-Strike still. So I'm absolutely going to play Counter-Strike 2 and see what they do with it.
Non-zero amount of Counter-Strike 2 unless it costs a lot of money, but it'll probably be free to play, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I actually think Counter-Strike 2 would be better if it cost a small to modest amount of money. Free to play is still a cancer on gaming. Like Overwatch 2, literally everything that is bad about Overwatch 2 is solely because of its free to play nature. And they are problems that did not exist in Overwatch 1, which cost money.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope Counter-Strike 2 is not free to play. I would pay $20. Maybe I'd pay $40 if it looked good.
I'm still waiting for a game to have a complete segregation of the people who pay and the people who don't pay, and be like, all right, you want to play this game for free? Here you go. We got the microtransactions. We got all that stuff. Pay us money. And
give us $20. Same game. You only play with other people who paid $20.
Yeah. Everyone who cares about winning and losing and doesn't care about any bullshit and is actually a competitor of some kind. Same exact game. You just got to pay this flat fee or subscription flat fee.
Yep.
You'll get absolutely everything. No cosmetic bullshit. Just winning and losing, tournaments, etc. Play over here. Right? You don't even need different game modes. Just literally the same game, just two audiences that don't touch.
Because, the real problem is just capitalism and the thing, the main problem with everything. So there's not much we can do about the fact that free-to-play is just going to be here, poisoning gaming probably for most of the rest of our lives, unless something...
We can make the game that has,
you can't, because it can't make any money.
We can, as long as we just make enough money for ourselves only.
I don't think we could even do that.
I think you could.
I think it's so rare that it is almost impossible. Even Dwarf Fortress, as huge as that was, divide all the money they've made by how many hours they spent making Dwarf Fortress. That is not enough money to live on.
We can make a smaller game. We don't need that kind of game.
The real answer, we should become independently wealthy and just make the game we want, and who fucking cares if anyone plays it?
Anyway,
in some other little news, Disco Elysium, the best single-player game I have played since Breath of the Wild came out, they added something really cool that's just free if you have the game that you didn't even need to pay for. It's just there. I think they've recognized how much this game resonated.
Wasn't there some drama with the people who made this game?
Oh yeah, the studio collapsed. Disco Elysium 2 is definitely not going to ever get made. I don't know who is in the wrong. It looks like it was over money and corporate structure, and I don't know what happened. As best I can tell, there's one group of people who are saying they were harassed out of the company, but there's another group of people saying, actually, our contracts covered this, and also you guys were being weird about dirtbag leftist stuff and harassing people. So we've got multiple groups accusing each other of harassment, and...
I just searched for Disco Elysium harassment, and it's Disco Elysium writer breakup just got messier. Disco Elysium creators accused of creating a toxic workplace. Disco Elysium dev says ex-staff were fired over misconduct. It's
yep.
I don't know what was going on there, but clearly something was going on there.
Kind of remember when MagFest had that little blow up and there was that weird group, the Friends of MagFest, who posted all their extreme diatribes, and I skimmed through it and couldn't fucking tell what anyone was mad about at all. Same situation. I cannot figure out what actually happened, nor do I care, because the game was fine. But if you own the game, you can just make collages in it. They have a mode now where you can take any character, any text, anything in the game, pose everyone, animate them however you want, and just make content. If you already own the game, you've just got it. And I've already seen some fantastic memes with this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Even the headline here, Disco Elysium's collage mode allows you to write new dialogue. Subtitle, the update comes amid controversy at the studio that created the game.
Yep.
So you got any news?
Yeah, I do have a news. This isn't really a gaming news.
But it's a big deal. We got to talk about it.
It's a really big deal. There's a website. The website is called DP Review, right? Which stands for Digital Photography Review. It's dpreview.com. I didn't realize that website, dpreview.com, was bought by Amazon in 2007.
Oh, look, capitalism causing every problem. Every news article we have is caused by capitalism.
I learned 2007, 2023, 13, 16 years-ish later, I learned that Amazon bought the site, right? So basically, this is a news and review website for digital camera and digital camera accessories. that has been around for like almost 30 years. It is the most comprehensive site for information about, digital camera equipment that there probably is, period, right? If you're a tech person, you might be thinking about PC gaming. You're probably thinking about sites like AnandTech or Tom's Hardware.
Yep.
Right? Or sites of that nature, right? And it's been around that long. And they're unlike other areas of nerdery, like gaming, where there might be multiple sites that have, we're competing with each other all this time. DP Review is like sort of the only one that was this comprehensive.
Because there's tons of sites that review cameras. Most of them have either completely facile reviews that don't tell any professional anything they actually need to know, or are increasingly just generated by GPT-type algorithms and are just worthless. Or they're focused on consumers. This was the site that was like, yeah, we tested the sensors on these 5 cameras in our lab.
DP Review has a lab where they test lenses and do optical tests and all sorts of things, right? And also their website includes like photo samples from all the different camera and lens combinations, a lot of user submitted ones. It's like, if you want to know, like, well, what do photos look like using this lens on this camera? There's probably somebody who took photos with that lens and that camera and uploaded them to the site. There's extensive forums answering lots of very specific camera type questions here. Questions that are not answered anywhere else on the internet. Right? If you Google search, for camera questions, you very often end up in DP Review forum threads frequently. They've got a lens like database that you can use. It's like this cool tool where I've used it often, where you choose a camera and then it's like, all right, here's all the lenses that we know of that will work on this camera. And then you can sort of filter and browse through them to find a lens that suits your needs. If like, you need a lens for something and you don't have the right one. And basically, Amazon is not only letting go all the people who work for this place.
Which I want to point out, Amazon has announced so many rounds of layoffs and bullshit in the last week that, like, Amazon's laying fucking everybody off.
Yep. So that's the first thing. They're shutting down the site. But after, like, they're going to basically put the site into read-only mode in, like, April something. So they're going to have new content up until April something.
April 10th.
Yeah, and then up until that point, you can put in a request if you want to get your own data, like your own forum posts and your own photos that you submitted. They'll give you a backup of that, but you can't. You have to request really soon. And then after that, they didn't say how long the site will be in read-only mode. They basically admitted they're going to just shut that shit down at some point and just turn it off completely, removing it from the internet.
This is why we can't let companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft exist at the scale that they exist, because they buy good things and then they eventually destroy them.
Right. It's like, you can't just, it's like, this is a very important resource. Right? It's like, this is like an Internet Archive emergency.
And before any of you say, well, if it's so valuable, someone else will make one, guess what? DP Review probably ain't making enough money. Nothing could make enough money.
So part of the problems is they didn't make any money. How would they make money?
Yeah.
Right? It's like they could only make money from ads. There's no other way that this thing makes money, right? That's
which we'll get back to that, because based on everything I'm seeing, ads. Remember how we kept talking about how eventually the adpocalypse is going to happen? Ad revenue is cratering. Everything supported by ads is in deep shit. Twitch is also affected by these layoffs, so watch out.
It's also expensive to operate this place, because not only are you doing journalism, but you're also doing lab testing. And that's part of the problem. The people are saying they couldn't hire anyone to work in their lab. The lab was understaffed, right? And they needed people who, were experts at like optical testing equipment stuff, right? It's very hard to find that kind of person. And
in fact, I saw a thing as I was reading about this. It said that the kinds of people who know this work almost exclusively live on the East Coast or in LA.
B, those people need to be in Seattle, where the lab is.
Yep.
Right?
And Seattle is a very small city. If you don't,
is.
Yeah, like Seattle's not big.
Yeah. The other thing is that there were these two guys who did video content for them. It was somewhat pretty entertaining and informative YouTube content for camera stuff. And those guys used to do that work for the Camera Store, which is a camera store called the Camera Store. And then they switched over to doing that work for DP Review. And now the DP Review is shutting down. Well, they're getting the boot also. So they're basically going to try, I guess they're going to go on their own and do continue their YouTube content on a different channel. because they're still in the camera circles. They can still go on doing that.
Yep.
But
And it's
they're gonna
possible
lose those guys who are like somewhat, mid-tier, more famous than us, but, only famous to camera people, camera test YouTube people, are now only going to have YouTube revenues. They've lost their steady income from Amazon, their regular paycheck.
And I got to tell you, the
insurance,
YouTube revenues, Patreon revenues, unless you're making furry pornography, that is usually not a lot of money.
They get a lot of views. They're, basically everyone in the camera scene knows these.
Oh, yeah, but like million views a month, not a lot of money if you want to live a normal life.
Yep. So this is like a huge.
Also, remember, views turning into money is done via the same mechanism that was previously funding Amazon keeping this site alive. Advertising.
Yeah, I think these people are probably big enough to the video guys.
They could do the Patreon, I think.
Subscriptions and Patreons, but
yeah.
yeah.
Which also, that is not a healthy ecosystem. Like, do not think, if we go to a model where every content creator is just directly supported by their fans, that is going to be a whole other can of worms to deal with down the road.
Anyway, the site is a massive, important resource on the internet, and for it to go down is like as big a, it's not it's sort of a first world problem, right, situation, but at the other hand, it is a catastrophe, like, not quite Library of Alexandria, but similar kind of deal.
All right, here, I got a Scott level idea. Instead of my usual, like, well, in the Senate, we could whatever. Like, here's a Scott level idea. What if, assuming we've solved other more basic problems like hunger and things in the U.S. to some degree, if we had a government agency, call it, I don't know what to call it, the government reclamation agency, and all they do is if there is a digital resource that the capitalist system fails it in some way, and they deem it strategic or valuable to the culture or heritage or professional world of the United States, they would take it over and keep it going.
We already have a government mechanism for this. It's like when they landmark buildings and say, sorry, you own that land, it's privately owned. The building on it, though, is a very important and significant landmark. So therefore, if you own it, you can't fuck with it. You have to keep it up. You have to maintain it. You have to do XYZ. You can't smash it. You can't take it down. And if you do, you'll be in deep, deep shit.
See? Right? So we should be able to do that to a website.
That legal framework already existing in the U.S. that we should bring it into the digital realm.
Well, here, imagine if Amazon,
you bought DP Review. We have deemed that this is too important a resource to the world. You cannot take it down. Otherwise, you will suffer a consequence worse than what it cost you to keep it up.
Yep. And then if they do try to shut it down anyway, just like how the FDIC just fucking shows up at a bank and takes it over, bunch of IT people working for the government just show up and take it over.
We need some sort of way to make a digital place a landmark that will be preserved because it has been deemed significant the same way we do for real buildings and other landmarks.
But mark my words, and this is my personal...
This would absolutely qualify. Easy, right? This would actually be like the example of the thing that qualifies.
Exactly. But mark my words, and this is my personal opinion.
Our podcast website, not qualified.
Not my professional opinion. This is not the opinion of any employer, nor do I have any inside knowledge. This is just purely my personal opinion. I think this and the cratering ad revenue and the layoffs, I think things are looking pretty shitty for the internet and technology before too long. I think we're going to see a lot of websites start to disappear in the coming 3 or 4 years.
Well, anyway.
All right, stick a little marker in there. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
So I don't actually have a link for this. It's just because it's a thing I heard. It's sort of a riddle, sort of a math puzzle, right? But it's sort of, it's not really a math puzzle because you don't have to do the math to get the answer. You just sort of have to think about it.
No.
And when I heard it and I read it, it took me a few minutes to understand it and figure it out. And I was like, oh, I get it. And I was like, that's interesting enough. I'll make that a thing of the day. So here's the deal. Ready? You got 2 cars, right?
All right.
The cars are driving straight at each other.
All right, like a game of chicken.
Right. They are 100% going to eventually hit head to head. Just boom. It's going to happen. Right. On one of the cars is a bird, a bee, something. Right? A bee. We'll go with the bee. Right.
Yeah.
It's a magical bee.
There's a Star Trek reference you wouldn't understand, so I won't make it. But anyway.
Something that flies. Right. It's a bee. The bee has magical powers. it doesn't have to accelerate. It could just immediately get to speed instantly.
All right.
And the bee travels at 100 miles an hour. And what the bee is going to do is it's going to fly from one car to the other car. And then when it reaches the other car, it's going to turn around and head back to the first car and go back and forth in like a zigzag, right? But eventually, right, the bee is making shorter and shorter trips each
All right,
time.
so this is mathematically identical to the bouncing ball question.
Right. So it's bouncing back and forth, and eventually when the cars hit each other, the bee will stop because it's in the middle, right? No more bouncing back and forth between the two cars.
Theoretically, a uncountably infinite number of back and forths before it fully stops, but that's physics gets involved at that point.
We're going to say it stops when the cars crash.
Yeah, because
right?
physics is beyond the realm of a riddle in that case.
Yeah. All right. So the cars are 100 miles apart from each other at the start. The bee is on one of the cars. The bee instantly accelerates to 100 miles an hour, right? So, and then one car is going 60 miles an hour, and the other car is going 40 miles an hour, right? The question is, right, how far does the bee travel in total? How many miles does the bee travel on its zigzag pattern?
Ah. Like a little math puzzle.
Yeah. Should I say the answer or should like I don't know?
I'll leave it out there because
riddle thing of the day before.
I think I would need I would need to actually write on a piece of paper to answer that question.
Well, do you want to? I mean, I guess the only person who could be spoiled is Rim. I guess if I say the answer.
or how many people are watching the live stream right now? We got 6 people currently watching.
No, I guess that's it. But people could pause. I could say, then try to solve it. And then I could say they could unpause and hear the answer. Or should I not say the answer?
I'd say after we're done recording the show, say the answer, and I'll put it in the stinger at the end of the episode instead of my usual internet-y bullshit.
All right.
I think that's a good way to go.
Okay.
All right. So my thing of the day, we had a little, we celebrated St. Patrick's Day by having a small dinner party. And at that party, a friend of ours had remembered a melody and remember that it was from an old anime, but couldn't remember what the anime is. And we were desperately trying to figure out what anime it was because we could all kind of remember it.
Because, you could try to hum to Google or Shazam or whatever, but an anime song, probably not, right?
Yep. Of course, we all remembered then the moment when you, on Geek Nights many years ago, were like, oh, there's this song by like Britney Spears or something. Like you heard some pop song, but didn't know what it was. And you said the words, it goes, ba-na-na-na-na. And every listener immediately knew it was Toxic.
Okay.
But anyway.
That was the song that I had heard. I remember when that was like when Britney Spears was still a thing and I was in high school, right? The only song of hers I knew was the one I forgot now. Right?
Yep.
But it's
so
hit me baby one more time, right? And I didn't know the Toxic song, right? But then many years after Britney Spears was no longer a thing, I heard that song somewhere with it's with that like the violin part,
yeah,
right? And I was like, right, and I was like, oh, I like that part, right? That was a good part. It was catchy, right? But I had no idea at that time it was a Britney Spears song, like a brand new song, and Britney Spears was not a thing anymore, right? And then I found out later, I put everything together. So,
so unrelatedly, semi-relatedly, in 1999. September 12th, 1999, in Tokyo, Masami Okui performed.
I know that name, but I
yep, the Utena singer. So she sang the Utena songs.
Okay.
So she performed a live version of Toki ni Aiwa at this concert, and
I know that song. In
high school, I acquired an early MP3 that was recording of that live concert. And it was just in my MP3s directory. Like, I collected weird music. I had this from high school. We were going through my old MP3 directory because it has a lot of anime songs in it. Because guess who was a fucking giant weeb between 1994 and 2004? Like way more than I am now. And I bumped into that MP3. And I promised our friends who didn't know this recording existed, like, oh yeah, after you get home, I'll send you the MP3. I'll just post it like in Discord. Like, I'll give it to you. I just decided to Google for it because I hadn't thought about this song in a long time. And what I found online, my thing of the day, a recording, what looks like an official recording of that exact concert with video and everything just on YouTube. It's only got like 30,000 views. I just found it out of nowhere. So
30,000 is a lot of views.
it's a relatively small number of views.
For something like that? Come on. All right.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the only people who have ever found this have been looking for this exact performance from this exact concert, and it happened to me. So my thing of the day is Masami Okui live in Hibiya 13 performing Toki ni Aiwa from Shoujo Kakume Utena.
All right.
In the meta moment, the Geek Nights Book Club book is The Satanic Verses. Have you read any words in it yet?
No, I'd say I'd read them because we're going to PAX, but we decided to use car to go to PAX, and I can't read in the car.
Nope.
So.
If I read in a car, it is 30 seconds from feeling fine to a headache that lasts all day.
That's right. So my headache doesn't last all day. It just lasts until...
It lasts like 4 hours. It lasts for a couple hours after I get out of the car, once that happens to me.
Mine just lasts... I just have to close my eyes and stop reading for a little while.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. But I can't read in the car, so...
But yeah, if so many people have tried to assassinate this author, and then you read the first chapter of this, and you feel like maybe people trying to assassinate this author does not make sense in light of this is what they're mad about, then this book is definitely worth reading. Also, we will be live in a couple days at PAX East 2023 on Thursday, March 23rd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the Bumblebee Theater with Can Competitive and Casual Coexist, a panel we did an early version of once at a MagFest a long time ago, and it is updated because we've learned some things.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I did a secret panel Scott didn't even know about. It will be live at ZenkaiCon at 9 p.m. Eastern Time in ZenkaiCon Online on Saturday, this coming weekend. It is a version of something we talked about doing behind the scenes at conventions, but Scott didn't seem super interested in recording it, so I just recorded it like right after you
didn't do any of the work that you didn't do. You just pretended to do.
No, I made a whole slide deck. I put together this intro, but really all it is.
Actually talk to anybody?
No, what I did is I outlined.
That's not the thing I wanted to do.
Yeah, so basically what I did is I outlined in this panel the kinds of roles that exist in conventions that aren't staff, like contractors versus venue workers and the unions and all those kinds of spaces. But really, the end of the panel is just a call to action with a really simple form. We want to hear from people who do all the jobs in, at, and around conventions that are not Artist Alley and convention staff. I want to hear about the janitor. I want to hear about the union person who's like working the loading dock. I wanted to hear from like the hotel manager. We want to know about all of you out there, anyone who does work that is adjacent to conventions, and hear your story of what it's like to do that kind of work and what it's like to do that kind of work specifically around nerd conventions.
Yeah, I mean, you basically took, the thing I actually wanted to do was to interview, all those people, but also the convention staff. Also the artists, also the dealers, also not everyone but attendees.
Yep, I want to interview everybody, but
exhibitors, vendors,
yep.
etc. I want to food people. I want to interview all the people, who are involved in a nerd convention, and then put that all together.
Yeah, make a documentary, basically.
All you did is you said, well, instead of actually doing the panel, I'll make an outline of the panel and pass that off as my own panel.
Except I realized something putting it together. I don't think pretty much anyone attending conventions realizes how venue staffing works and all the temp workers.
It's just not something you think about, right?
Exactly.
People do things in life, and most people don't think about the behind the scenes or care about the behind the scenes.
So it's funny, I did tell one anecdote in it because I remember my first nerd convention was Michigan in 94, I want to say.
Don't even watch the behind the scenes things when they get, they come on their DVD extras.
Right. So the first nerd convention I ever went to in 94, I just remember I didn't think, I just went. I didn't barely look at the website. I knew what events I'd signed up for. My dad dropped me off, went in, played some competitive D&D, which sounds weird, but it was the mid 90s. Don't worry about it. This was second ed. But so we're doing that.
So and mine.
I remember at this convention, there was a break in this 7-hour game that I was in, and I was just sitting there. I was a young kid, and it was mostly people who were way older than me. But then I saw a little hubbub outside, and I realized that there were 3 people who were talking, and they all had little orange armbands on. I realized later they were convention staff, and they were having one of those huddles of nerdy convention staff making a big deal about something that probably isn't a big deal and huffing at each other and like pointing and mumbling and dealing with the situation. And at that moment, I thought, wait a minute. How do you get a job running a convention? That looks like a great career, because I was in middle school. And then I got really interested in how conventions get run way before I even got into like high school or went to RIT Anime or went to like an Otakon or anything. So yeah, moral, regardless of all that, if you're a Geek Nights listener, just pay attention to how things happen around you. Don't just walk around, look around. Walk around, look around, and maybe look behind things occasionally. Anyway, other than that, let's get right into the main bit, because as always, when we don't do a ton of Geek Nights episodes, we go longer and longer and longer when we record shows. I think Scott briefly talked about playing this game a while ago in like the pre-news part of a Geek Nights, but we must have talked about it so little we didn't even type the word Stacklands anywhere on the Geek Nights website or in the Geek Nights forum.
Not that I could find. But yeah, there's a game called Stacklands. I got it because it was like on sale or recommended somewhere. It's on my wish list somehow. I don't know.
Yep. It came out in 2022, about a year ago. It's pretty new.
Yep. I think it got an update January 10th, so it's still somewhat maintained, perhaps, or at least recently maintained and updated. Is it early access or is it released? I think maybe it was early access and it got released and that's why I got it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What does matter is this game on Steam, in terms of recent reviews, has 615 overwhelmingly positive reviews. And in all of its reviews, all 17,533 reviews are overwhelmingly positive. That's the biggest, that's like, you can't get better on Steam than a rating of overwhelmingly positive.
Yep. Right? It's also the tip of a little iceberg, because it's actually part of the Sock Pop, SOKPOP franchise.
Yeah, it's a dev that sort of branded all their games together. I played their Simuland game, but it's not as good as Stacklands.
Yeah, from what I've poked at, Stacklands is the best one.
Yes. So what's Stacklands all about? Well, it's about stacking cards in the lands. Right? It's a solo roguelike sort of, but it's really hard to lose unless you're bad at it.
Which is really important because solo, kind of like Slay the Spire, a solo game like that doesn't have to worry about being balanced competitively or any nonsense. It just has to be fun.
Yep. So the way it works is you got all these cards and you're playing with cards on the table, right? In front of you, like a solitaire. And the cards, they sort of do stuff, right? So some of the cards just sit there. Like if you got a rock, it just sits there. It's a rock card, right? You can stack the rock cards up to make a rock pile, but there's still just a bunch of rock cards. And then you'll have another card that's like a person. It's like, okay, I got a person card and a rock card. If you stack the person on top of the rock card, the person starts hitting the rock card. Like ding, 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 right? And like individual stones come out, right? And then it's like, okay, we take a bunch of stones and put them together. And then maybe some wood you got from some tree cards, right? And then you put a person on that and they'll start taking those and combining them and crafting items. Like weapons, and you give the weapon, equip it on the person.
Yep. And then a little monster might show up and like attack your guys.
All right. You put the person on the monster card and the person starts fighting the monster, right? And it's like, and then the person changes classes to like a knight or a cook or a who knows what, right? It's like, there's all sorts of different cards. Some of the cards like houses that increase like the limit of how much stuff you can have out on the board. Some of them will spit out currencies you can use, right? And that's really the key thing is the currency. When you get coins, at the top of the board is basically a card shop where you can buy booster packs.
Yep.
Like it's fucking, the gaming store is selling you magic boosters.
Yeah, like in the beginning one, it's called like Humble Beginnings. And then, here, I got a screenshot. And then the next one that costs an extra coin, Seeking Wisdom.
Yep.
It's like different series of cards, like expansions.
And different boosters have different kinds of cards in them, right? So based on, like, if you need food, you might buy some, I forget what the name of the set is, but like a booster of the food cards.
Yep.
Right?
And the best part is when you buy a booster, it just barfs the cards in the booster like all over your board. And now you got to move them around.
It barfs out a booster pack that you have to open. And then the cards come out. It's like, you get the satisfaction of,
Everything, all interaction is basically dragging cards around like it's a physical card game, which is a very nice conceit.
Yep. It makes for a good UI also. So you buy boosters to get new kinds of cards you haven't seen, and then you get more currency to buy even more expensive boosters with other cards you haven't seen. And there's all these quests you're trying to accomplish. Like there's a huge list of like, do all these things. And when you do all those things, eventually you win. But you can also lose. The way you lose is that you need food, right? Even, it's like, it would be too easy if you could just, do all your crafting and, equip all your guys and get all the currency and buy the best stuff. You have to also make sure you are making enough food, and every once in a while the timer runs out and all the people that you have on the board, right, are going to eat their however much food they want to eat because they're hungry.
And if you don't have enough food, well, there is a corpse card. You might see a bunch of them.
Yeah, right? It's people. And if you run out of people, then you can't get anything done because pretty much making anything happen, almost anything happen, requires a people to do the work. Some things you can do without a people, but most things need a people.
Yep.
So if all the people die of starvation, you're in trouble. And it's like this balancing act because to make more food, you need more people. But more people need more food.
Yep. So you gotta start to be efficient, like a lot of engine building type games. Early on, like, all right, I got berry bushes. I'll keep planting those. I'll have villagers picking berries. Like that'll work out. But then you got to scale it up. You got to scale up your whole pipeline. It's almost like you're making one of those victory point machines in a German board game.
Yep. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just have, if one person can pick enough berries for 3 people or 2 people or whatever it is, I'll just have half my people picking berries and half the people doing something else. But picking berries is a lot of clicking for you to get more berry bushes all the time. And also, to have that many people, you need a bunch more shelter cards to provide housing for all those people because there's a people limit, right? And then can you, it's like, it's not going to scale. And you got
a limited play area. So if you have more and more cards out, they start getting in the way. You're like trying to move your shit around just to make a space to do a thing you want to do.
Yeah. You eventually need to get like, cows in a farm and then process the milk and make recipes in your cookhouse and right to get food. And it's like, if you can make really good food, it's like, well, that one steak can feed like 3 people.
Yep.
Right?
And there's a lot going on. Like, if you start to play this, it seems really simple and almost easy because it's teaching you how to play. The complexity actually ramps up pretty fast in a satisfying way, but it never sort of ramps up in a way that feels unmanageable.
Yep. It's like, there's a lot of funny things too. Like you'll get like, bad guys will run around messing up your cards.
Yeah.
If you don't fight them. A dark portal to another world opens up. You travel to like an island. It's like another place where you can do stuff with a boat back and forth. And it's like all, this, you go on adventures. They'll be like, you'll get a purple card that'll be like the mountains, and you put a person on it. That person will go questing in the mountains, and basically they'll sit on the card, and when the progress bar on the mountains fills up, something will pop out, and it might be, I don't know, a berry tree from the mountains.
Yep.
It might be, I don't know, some gems that they found in a mine on the mountains, or it might be a troll that lives in the mountains, right? You send, and then suddenly everyone has to stop what they're doing and fight this troll, otherwise it's going to mess you up and eat all your food, or who knows what it's going to do.
Well, I sent a villager to a graveyard because I was like, ooh, I can get some good stuff out there, and they found a corpse. Like, okay, great. Thank you. I don't know what I expected.
Sometimes you need corpses to do things.
Yep, and there's a lot of ways to make corpses.
But it's interesting because, like, you don't know from the start, like, what cards do what, or like what the recipes are for cards. You can sort of see them in the little list there, but it's like you figure them out as you go along. You unlock new recipes, and it's like, oh, I can combine 3 steel and a thing to make a sword, or I can combine these things, get some magic dust, and I can make a fucking, crazy powerful mage staff or whatever. There's
a lot you can do. Like, I just found the list there are 353 unique cards in this game.
Yep. It seems like it's a lot, but it's like, I actually, how much hours did I play this game on Steam? Let's see.
Let's see. There are 60.
I played it 10 hours and I completed, I don't know if I got every single card there is to get or did everything there is to do.
We did a show a long time ago on 100% in games and how it's usually not worth it.
But I completed 34 out of 36 achievements and I beat the game. I beat it, right? The ending was achieved. 10 hours. 10 hours well spent.
Yeah, this is
This clever game.
this game is worth 10 hours to play. It is.
If it was more than 10 hours, I might be like, that's too many hours.
I feel like I would have petered out if it went too much longer, but it ends. It feels really satisfying as you get toward the end. Like things start to click together. You start to get into a groove. You start to figure out how to manage your cards. It just does a really good job of gently guiding you toward figuring things out, but not telling you exactly what everything does. Like things work kind of intuitively, but occasionally you'll mix some cards up and they'll do something you didn't expect, and that's usually delightful.
It's also worth noting I only spent like $5 at most for this game.
Yeah.
Right? Right now on Steam, this game is $3.50 because it's on sale.
No, that rounds down to 0.
Right. Of course, make sure you got to follow the Scott policy. Only buy it if you are going to immediately install and play it.
That is what I did after Scott mentioned it a while ago. I right after the show, I bought it. I played it immediately, and it was great.
Right. They are also selling, it seems, a strategy bundle of other similar games that is $9.23. And they have oh, you know what? You know how I got this game? I think I bought a card-based Village Builders bundle that was 2 games. That's how I got it.
Well, they got a mega collection of 100 games for $111.
Collection of 100 Sock Pop Super Bundle right? And it is $110, but it's like 100 games, so it's like $1.10.
Now, at the same time, I want to point out that other than Counter-Strike, the first thing I ever bought on Steam was
id game Super Bundle.
Yeah, I have every id game in there, and
Doom, every Quake, at the time at least.
Yep, I have not at any point installed or launched at least half of those. Ever.
I've played a lot of them, at least a little bit.
Not all of them, though. Not 100% of them.
I definitely not all, because there's a lot.
We should play some Quake 1 because they added CTF and we haven't even touched it yet.
I remember when they did add it, I suggested we do it, and no one did.
I wanted to too, but we wanted a critical mass. You and I were the only ones who were willing.
All right.
I think we can make it happen.
I highly recommend the overwhelmingly positively reviewed $3.50 10-hour game Stacklands. If you like a solo roguelike little, I don't know if it's puzzly, but like a little crafty.
It's a little puzzly, but it's more like it. But they're like broad puzzles. It's more like, how do I forge a path through crafting in these cards to continue to progress and see more cards?
Yep, and eventually you see the final cards,
yep,
and then you win the end. Right?
And every time you find a new card, it's satisfying. I never saw a card I hadn't seen before and said, that's it. It was always either funny or useful.
Yep. Or if you just keep getting cards you already don't need, you can just sell them and turn them into coins to buy boosters to try to find the card you.
I remember I hit a moment where I had way too much clutter and I was like, oh, fuck. And then a bear was running around and I was having trouble dealing with the bear. So I was like consolidating cards and trying to sell a bunch just to make space to like clean up my biz to get a guy with a sword to go deal with that bear.
Yeah, I remember I had livestock that I was using for food, which was giving me a good return on food, keeping the game going. But the livestock were just running all over the place, and I didn't yet have the technology of like a barn to put them in, running around. When I got the barn, I was like, yes, finally, I all the cows and chickens in the barn, And then I was like, okay, you all stay put. And then the eggs and the milk started popping out of the barn, and I'm like, good.
All right, I think that was a fine show. It's going to stop that old stream right now.